Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Food Yari, I, Ms. Simran Ahuja, would like to extend a very warm welcome to our esteemed guest speaker, Dr. Rameshwar Jaju sir, and all the attendees as well. Food Yari has once again organized a webinar for all of us today on the topic of scope and challenges in the sector of food processing, which will be conducted by our guest, Mr. Rameshwar sir. Now, some brief highlights about Food Yari. Food Yari is the first ever web-based platform for all the food technologist community. At Food Yari, you will get a great learning experience in the form of quizzes, articles, news updates regarding the food sector, and much more. Food Yari also provides you a large community of food professionals so that you can interact and form meaningful conversation and discussions with them. A quick introduction about our speaker. Our speaker today, Dr. Rameshwar Jaju sir, is a recognized industrial expert having an experience of more than 10 years in the food academic sector. Dr. Jaju sir is an author of 5 books related to the management of food businesses. Sir is presently working as the principal of MGM College of Food Technology, Aurangabad. We are very honored to be in your presence today, sir. Before I hand over the webinar to our speaker, I would like to request all our participants to please post their queries and questions in the chat box below so that we can clear them towards the end of this webinar. Thank you, and over to you, Jaju sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, the whole Food Yari team. With consent to our, I think it's time to share the presentation first of all.
Yes, sir.
Could you hear me? My voice is clear?
Yes, your voice is clear, sir. Is the presentation visible?
Okay, fine. Yeah, fine. So with consent to our topic,
The main topic is for today's session is with concern food processing sector, different scope and the remaining challenges in current era. Next slide, please. So with consent to same, our main question is how we have to focus on food safety.
it means with the help of different 4 parameters, we are able to focus on food safety, because that is the most important question in today's era, that
Where our focus is actually lies. So the focus is actually lies with concern to our changing food habits. Every day or every year, we are occurring the thing. From that point of view, we could say food habits of the individual could be changed. From the traditional point of view, they are moved to from conventional food product to the modern food product, or even we could say conventional product to the value added product. With the help of that, increasing processing and handling. Yes, that is one of the scenario by which with the help of increasing processing, the value addition of the commodity could be possible. Hence, farmer or the producer get more number of margin with concern to the selling of the commodity. Then changing processes and products. Definitely day by day, there are different changes in with concern to the processes, and hence there are number of products which came into market with more ranges. And finally, but not the least, globalization of the food trade. Friends, we could say when a domestic commodity made available to the whole worldwide nation, that is nothing but the globalization. So here our major focus is how to maintain the food safety with current standards. Next slide. Now with concern to the processing level, here we could quote that currently we are in a way to have the processing level up to 6% for different perishable commodities. Slide please. Yeah. Different up to 6% of the processing level of perishable commodity, whereas with concern or with compared to the different developed countries, we are very lacking. Because if we say with concern to the statistical parameters, then USA has 80% of the processing level, whereas Malaysia 80, and again France is 70%. So there is a large scope with concern to the processing level. Generally, from the traditional point of view, we could classify the processing with concept of the three major parameters: primary processing, secondary and tertiary processing. And there are a number of segments which you already know related to the F&B processing, grains, oil seeds, milk, meat and poultry, marine products. Friends, here most importantly what happened with concept of the primary processing. Here I quote certain examples, and these are some of the brilliant examples so that we are able to know where our primary processing is actually exist and what are the industrial sector who cater to them, like Sahyadri Nashik, Mahindra and Mahindra. They are typically procurement one with concept of the grapes and various seasonal products or seasonal fruits. Sri Sai Export. So these are some of the examples of where pre-packaging of the commodity followed by procurement and then export of the commodity with related standard at various locations. Typically, we could say, quote example of European countries. In secondary processing, we could say the primary product act as a raw material for secondary processing. So different types of milling, different types of some of the products that are the typical examples of secondary processing. Simple examples are like Amul, Fresh Crop, dairy industry, frozen foods. Nowadays, there is a large scope with concern to the frozen food market because currently it is the need of an hour. And when the secondary processing, the actual finished good of the secondary processing, when it acts as a raw material, then the nothing but this is the tertiary processing. With concept of the tertiary processing, we could say for the different sector like Parle, Britannia, they have produced the packaged commodity for the people or for the human mankind, like Ferrero, General Mills, Mondelez. These are some of the just examples. Here I could say one more thing. Apart from these three, like primary, secondary and tertiary, there is again one of the industry which is catering nowadays with a greater extent, and this is nothing but the quaternary industry or service industry. Like simple examples, some of the big brands like Zomato, these are entering into quaternary processing. They are providing helping hands to number of industries and number of humankinds by means of step out the product to your farm or to your own market. It means nothing but the farm to fork, they make availability of this product. Next slide, please. Now here the major importance is why we have to invest in only food industry. There are a number of reasons, but I just quoted here nearly 6 reasons why we have to invest in food industry. First one is the supply side advantage. As we know, with concept of the different food grains, India is the largest market and one of the largest market and catering nearly first or second rank for number of fruits and vegetable and number of food grains. So we have the availability of the different commodity. Then again, we have the largest livestock. That's why we are ranking first since 2000 with concern to the milk and milk product. We have varied agroclimatic zones. Nearly we have 9 agroclimatic zones with concern to the same. So here we must say that we have the supply side. Though friends, keep in mind one thing, though we are not able to process up to that much extent with concern to the comparison of global world, but still our major advantage is the supply of the commodity. Then demand driver. Yes, we have demand. Demand is nothing but by means of our catering to the number of population. Typically 1.21 billion, we have to cater them. And with changing lifestyle, we have to cater every segment in the industry and again into the India or the whole market. Organizing retail. Nowadays, culture of retail is moves on. So we have to also cater them from that perspective. Export opportunities. Here, government providing different types of export oriented units typically set up in nothing but your mega food park. It is one of the way by which all type of needs is generated on one segment or on one place. That is nothing but the mega food park, starting from your procurement, your processing till distribution, and more than that, if needed, they directly go for the export purpose. So all the facility at one hand. And again, nutritional facts. Yes, nowadays many people require some of the nutritional benefits and people are aware about that. Friends, keep in mind here again one thing. people liable to pay if your product remark up to the certain extent. So that is one of the important one. Export scenario, yeah, definitely day by day our export scenario is increasing, and we are in a way to cater to near about 300 billion US dollar. So here major opportunity for the export of different commodities. In that again we make good rank in terms of the mango, in terms of different types of cashew like figs. Government initiatives here, I quote typically two government bodies, MFPI and APEDA. Every year there are a number of schemes appointed by these two apex bodies, in which APEDA is one of the major institute, Agriculture Processed Food Product Export Development Authority. It is actually established under APEDA Act 1984 and the head office instituted in year 1985. Friends, nearly 44% of our agriculture export is just contributed by APEDA product. That is the major thing of the APEDA. And there are a number of campaigns, like we could say Made in India campaign, export oriented union, again exemption of duty for the import of different types of product or different types of equipment, typically for the purpose of milk and meat product. FDI, foreign direct investment. Generally, we are able to cater 100% FDI in different food industry. Typically in tea plantation, yes, in tea plantation also major FDI is there. It is nothing but the investment of foreign company into the Indian subcontinent with the help of their actual investment. So the flow of FDI increased day by day, and from the past 5 years, we are one of the top. We could say India is one of the top in terms of the inflow of foreign direct investment. Then infrastructure development and support. Yeah, definitely with the help of friends here, I could say one thing, though we are not able to sustain the availability of supply materials, but still we make it in a larger way. Like simple example, we have the warehouse availability, but it is inadequate in source, but we are going ahead so that if we are moving in that way, then definitely we make a big impact and makes big leaps and bounds with concern to the global scenario. So for that concern, we require mega food park in a processing way. They have to move on. Like simple example, Indore mega food park is definitely moving on very good. But when we compare Indore mega food park with concern to our Python, then it is some of the, we could say the phase by which it is growing is not that much extent. Cold chain, yeah, we require cold chain so that through here the main reason of the cold chain is the product is available throughout the year, and most importantly we got more number of benefits by means of the cold chain. Value addition, yeah, we know that from the MFPI there are 3 main targets set by the MFPI, in which the most important is the increase the value addition from 25% to 40%. Here simple example is nothing but our iodized salt and different types of impartment of the ingredients like micronutrients, vitamins, minerals on the commodities. And modernization of ABATA, it is typically for the meat and meat product. So these are the ways for which we have to invest in food industry. Next slide. Now here we move on with concern to our industrial opportunity. What are the things by which we are move on with concern to the industrial opportunity? Friends, here I first of all quote example of the primary sector where a food tech candidate actually enter into the business. Maybe here he could be a quality assurance person, maybe in the quality control person, in the production department, or even after that shift in charge or further as a supervisor. So here the main strategy of the candidate is to sustain the pressure, because if he's not sustaining the pressure, then definitely it is very problematic thing for the candidate. So here most importantly he has to sustain the pressure with that much of a mindset. This is the most important with concern to the QA or QC department. Friends, here sustain is what is actually mean. I just suggest here the strategy of sustain. What it actually, it is nothing but a way by which the minds of the candidate could be remain stable, because he is a new entrant. So it's his own sole responsibility to cope with the situations, to cope with the structure, to cope with the environment, organization structure. So these are the important one, and these are definitely required from the industry point of view. Then second one is the lab in lab, he could be a lab analyst, a lab analytics in the chemist department or further R&D department. Typically, the requirement for the R&D is postgraduate candidate, but every time it does not so. So after sustaining the pressure, here the strategy is to move on to grow the career of the inner candidate. Then apprentice. I must say here, it is one of the best opportunity for the final year candidate or the just pass out candidate, because what happened, we know one thing very clearly, that currently many people or many MNC companies, multinational companies, not able to absorb the candidate, or they are not able to absorb the candidate which they extend the previously. Why? The major reason is the retention policies, because generally the move on candidate or the pass out candidate could not retain in a single company for more than 1 year. So from that point of view, company could not absorb the candidate on their own payroll. So what they do apprentice, maybe the GAT, graduate apprentice training. It is typically for the period of 11 months, 12 months. And here again, the salary or the remuneration you got from the MNC company is very less. I'm clearly saying is very less, because the main reason is how to sustain and grow your career. So here you have to apply your own tactics. Keep in mind, if you sustain there for 1 year, definitely your future could be very prospective. So that act, or if you got the opportunity to become an apprentice, definitely you have to got the opportunity. Startup. During the COVID situation, we saw many people's, or we could say at least 20% people lost their job. So startup is one of the option for them. So here your main strategy is to motivate yourself, motivate the nearby, or motivate by means of the family members, so that they could move on. Again, nowadays the procedure by which you have to start the organization or you have to start the company is very simpler one. Like registration, you don't need much amount, only ₹100 for 1 year with consent to the registration of the company. So these are the some of the ways you could move on. And currently many more industries are incorporated into the bakery and confectionery sector. Yes, entrepreneur, if we want to move on onto this, then definitely take care about the SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunity, threats. Friends, every time these opportunities or this analysis is helpful to you. Here internal analysis means nothing but it is typically near to you, or it is in the present scenario. Like strength and weakness, we know every time what is the strength, what is the weakness, or we could analyze in a better way. But here the problem lies with the external analysis that could be happen in the future, like opportunity and threats. So here the main strategy is to use the opportunity become your strength in the future, and nullify the weakness, reduce the weakness for the future, so that it could not be your weakness. Next slide. Now we move toward the government opportunities, because as we know there are different things, and currently there are different way by which we are enter into the government sector, and that is one of the way by which we say that yes, there are the opportunities. Firstly, and the most important opportunity, I think this could be happening this year itself, and that is nothing but the FSO, Food Safety Officer. Before moving on ahead, I just quote one thing, that FSO, CFSO. FSO is typically for the state government, and Central Food Safety Officer is typically for the central government. Okay, technical officer. These are the two requirement for the FSSAI, Food Safety and Standard Authority of India. Food Commissioner typically for the state government. Food Supply Officer again with concern to the state government. So definitely nowadays the vacancies are there. Yes, friends, vacancies are there. We must have to acknowledge how to cater to the vacancy, or what is our approach, so that we are able to apply for the vacancies. Here most important thing is what is the syllabus and how you acquire certain things, that's so that you are able to crack the exams. Maybe again the exam pattern could be changed. For the preliminary, it could be in the objective manner, and for the final examination, it could be in the written format. Like this year, it could be it is already there for this year. But yes, definitely, food safety officer is one of the very good opportunity. And there is again short difference between the CFSO and TO. In one of my video, I already described about this. TO is nothing but the technical think tank, whereas FSO is the actual floor person who analyze all the things with concern to the food safety officer or with concern to various food organizations. So this is very much important, and we need this. As we know, FSSAI is the apex body with concern to the food authority in India. So as a food candidate, you must move on and you must grab the opportunity for the FSO. Now, banking sector. As we know from past 4 to 5 years, our students are eligible with concern to the agriculture officer for the different types of examinations, specialist officer, like simple example of a regional rural bank in different RRB, there is a vacancy of specialist officer, and agriculture and financial officer for some of the banks like ICICI, or we could say even Axis Bank or some of the nationalized bank also. Friends, keep in mind one thing. Here I must say one thing, that as a candidate of food person, the reasoning power of the food candidate is somewhat stronger than the other allied field in the agriculture. Definitely, we have the more reasoning power with concern to the other allied field. So here the chances are more for the agriculture officer or specialist officer, but it needs continuous practice. Yeah, definitely, we have to move on continuously, and the focus could not be done within a day or within a week. It requires time, particularly 6 months, 1 year at least, that could be there. And it is your own opinion that and which sector you move on. Like after graduation, you could move on the preparation of different types of competitive exams, which are already prescribed here. Again, if you want to move on to the industrial sector, that is already prescribed in the previous slide, or to move on to the higher education, job, competitive exams, or higher education, you must be clear about this thing. Because if we are not clear in our final year, then we are unable to move on. And here we have to move on from our comfort zone. If we are unable to move on the comfort zone, then we are not able to cope with the situations, with the handling, and with the surroundings. Okay, yeah. Again, government opportunities there. EIC, Export Inspection Council, BIS, Bureau of Indian Standard. There are the opportunities for typically for the assistant director and technical officer. Both positions could be applicable with your graduation only. So it is one of the best opportunities, and many people got this opportunity. NABARD. Friends, in NABARD, again, there are 2 vacancies. One is for the assistant manager, and as NABARD already have their warehouses, so warehouse manager or procurement manager is the new vacancy applicable for the NABARD. FCI, Food Corporation of India. Typically, they are dealing with the procurement of different food grains and use the different food grains for the critical conditions, or we have to circulate the food grains. FCI has to circulate the food grains throughout all parts of India. So the vacancy is typically for the procurement and warehouse and manager. Here, if I must quote here one thing, for the fresh candidate or the fresh graduate, the vacancy is there for the FCI. Apart from that, if a candidate of BTech along with his MBA, it paves a good way for the management training. There is a vacancy in FCI for the management trainee position, so he could move on with that concern. Again, assistant manager in both the domain, assistant manager with concern to your procurement warehouses, and assistant manager with concern to the main FCI head. So there are again 2 opportunities for the FCI. Yeah, junior scientist. Yeah, this is nothing but the vacancy under the as a scientist under the ICAR, Indian Council of Agriculture Research. But there are we have to move on from that perspective. Here the basic criteria is you must have the PG, and if along with the PG you have the NET, then your eligibility, or we could say rather than the eligibility, your criteria to be select is at more extent for the junior scientist. For for after the probation of typically 2 to 3 years, they could be move on to the senior scientist, and that is one of the better way, because I saw many people who enter into that segment as a junior scientist, and currently they are doing very great in their career. One of the simple example is my friend Mr. Venkatraman Bansodi. He's currently located at in the Bhubaneswar as a scientist, as a senior scientist with concern to the typically the crop of tubercle KVK. Yeah, definitely, friends. Again, the vacancy is there with the different types of institutions like central institutions, CFTR. These are some of the institutes. But apart from that, KVK Krushi Vigyan Kendra, there is a vacancy for the subject matter specialist. We could call it as a SMS. And again, the payroll for the KVK is very good. And nowadays, more and more vacancies with concern to the food domain are moving on for the KVK. So definitely go and grab the opportunities. Here, one thing is that for every particular vacancy, you have to sustain with the typical probation period. If you sustain the probation period, then definitely you have to move on from that perspective. Next slide, please. Now, move on to the academic opportunities. Rather than that, we could say that that is my arena, because I am actually in the academic sector. So this is very much likely to me. Yeah, academic sector here. First is the PG, post graduation, MTech, MBA, MS. So there are number of things. But here, keep in mind, if you move on for the MTech purpose, then why it is so? It could be very clear to you. Rather than that, at which organization you are actually focused on. So here the main strategy is to search out the organization. Definitely we have to search out the organization. If we have to search out organization like ICT Mumbai, then what is their last year cutoff? Because just clearing the GATE examination is not a way to enter into the ICT for the food technology, for the MTech in food technology, because you also have to score more in GATE examination. So it is very much likely for the concern. Again, MBA, yeah, definitely MBA, or we could say apart from MBA, agribusiness management, that is one of the way. And if you got the opportunities to have the graduation or post-graduation from some of the mighty institutes like IIM Ahmedabad, Manage, then that could be a pickup. MS. Nowadays, many more candidates move on for the MS in different global part. That is one of the typically very good way, but here you have to move on to the different types of consultancy. What is their criteria? And for the MS, keep in mind, friend, your resume could be one of the bigger criteria. That what is your resume? How much things you are included in your resume? What is your strength? What are the different types of certification courses? Though it could be the ISO, FOSTAC, or anybody. What are the certification courses you already taken there? Apart from that, any type of community service you develop, any blood camp, blood donation camp, so that is there. So for that concern, for MS, your resume could be thoroughly prepared. Again, if you have anything like a research paper, then that could be added in a beneficial way. For PhD, definitely a scholar one, a person who after the post graduation he could move on to the PhD as a scholar one. Expert speaker. Nowadays, or we could say from the point of view from the COVID situation, expert speaker are much more. So here they have to acquaint the situations and acquaint their knowledge with concern to the society, to the mankind. Author. Yeah, many more candidates are coming in that arena of the expertise in domain. If typically we could say the domain is much more in needed, but the typical written things are not there, then we have to move on. Like again, till today, for the microbiology or for some of the subjects of engineering or even business management, availability of the books are not there. So definitely it is one of the way to move on. Yeah, SRA is one of the way, senior research assistant. Yeah, these are the vacancies in the institutes, assistant professor, associate professor, HOD, yeah, and BOC, as they must here keep in mind the one thing. If you move on as an assistant professor or SRA in any government private organization, then you must accept this as a profession. Do not enter it as a formality. Definitely, you have to enter it in a professional way. Then and then only you know what are the things which are required, what are the important things for an individual to remain as a profession. to remain in a professional way. So from that concern, definitely you have to act on BOK. Nowadays, many more colleges are providing the BOK course in maybe the food technology, food fermentation, or even the dairy processing. I just quote here one example because I searched a lot much about the BOK, and I got information about that. In only Maharashtra state, there are 46 colleges for the BOK. So keep in mind. I think 46 colleges are not there for the BTech food. So this is the way cluster combination. Friends, I must quote here one thing. This is one of the way by which you could expert in two different domains. That's why it is nothing but the cluster. And why the word is here, our strategy is to make synergistic effect. What is synergistic effect? When 1 plus 1 is equal to 2, but if 1 plus 1 is equal to 3, that is the synergistic effect, and that is very much important. Nowadays, people are looking for synergistic effect. It typically means if you combine two odds during your post-graduation or your undergraduation, then combination of both two odds make you surplus of one more output. So that's why it is nothing but the 3. So I suggest after BTech, if you choose your post-graduation, maybe in terms of the journalism, law, BA, so but it is definitely as per your liking and preferences. So as I have seen few individuals who are in that act and doing very much great. I have seen some people after graduation, they are moving on PG in the law and they are doing very great. So that is one of the good example. Apart from them, you could be act as a freelancer with concern to the academic opportunities. Next slide. Now, what are the modern new era opportunities? Because as a candidate, as a graduate, as a professional, as an industrial person, we must know on what are the things. Here, the consultancy firms. Many more consultancy firms are actually engaged themselves for the food processing or for the food commodities because there are not much opportunities. So if a candidate from the food background, friends, here my focus is on if a candidate from the food background open a consultancy firm for the food graduates, then definitely that is more emphasis, that is more useful. So from that perspective, second point is the facilitator. Yes, they are providing facility of different types of domain knowledge people, how they are acquaint their knowledge to the society. That is the facilitator. That is the role of facilitator. Simple example, here Foodary act as a facilitator to convey their message on, we could say, from the different speaker to the rest of the community. Regulatory affairs. Yeah, definitely. Nowadays, our food candidate is having good, we could say, having very much knowledge with concern to the regulatory affairs. What is the regulatory affairs with concern to the Food Act, laws, regulations, FSSA 2006, again 2011 regulations. So it is one of the very good way. Simple example for the Marico, Prabodh sir act as a regulatory affair person, and he is doing, we could say, all people are mighty, all people know him. Competitive world. Yeah, we could pave our way into the competitive world with required things. I must say here, if you enter into that arena, if you have the preferences and likings as per the suitability, if you know the thing in a very much manner, then definitely you could enter into the competitive world. Here, for the different examinations or for the different sector, you could again act as a competitive people. Freelancer, I just quote example in the previous slide. Many people today I saw that they are enjoying the freelancer, and it could be a scenario of online world. So it gives you the liberty for your own work-life balance. But it depends on your brand value and typically on your own context, that how to use own context for the freelancer. Quality labs. Currently, there are many quality labs are running from the central government project or from the NRHM, and they're doing already great with concern to the quality lab. Next slide, please. Okay, again, some of the opportunities like, yes, exams, MPSC, UPSC exam. I just quoted the example like the position of food commissioner is there in the MPSC. Again, some of the different possible suitable requirement are there with concern to the UPSC. Certification courses, FOSTAC, Food Safety Management System, ISO. Friends, in these three, you must move on and you must take the opportunity to do the first tag. It is very much, it is very much required in current era. Post tag is very much required. But keep in mind one thing: if you are in the first or second year, do not go and actually apply for the post tag, because the requirement or the validity of the post tag certificate is typically for the 2 year for level 1 or level 2. So do that thing. Auditor, yeah, definitely. Many more candidates are doing great in terms of the auditor. Simple example: Sanjay Indani sir with the Safe Foods is doing great in terms of the auditor. Hygiene inspector, friend, I just quote the simple or the brand of the TUV. What happened? IRCTC provides a meal to the different passengers in the railway, and the quality of the meal checked by the TUV representative. So they could be called as a hygiene inspector, and for the appointment of that TUV as a hygiene inspector, here your FOSTAC certification to the candidates must be there. It could be needed when it is must there. So it is one of the cross scenario. Competitive advantage, yeah, definitely. As a food candidate, we must move on to the different types of food commodities, and yeah, we are in a competitive world with the food commodities. Executive HSEQ, yes, it is one of the way by which here I must say that it is one of the niche area that we have to maintain. Typically, there we have to maintain the hygiene, safety, certain economic things, and quality parameters for the HSEQ. Here again, two vacancies are there, or two positions could be there for the HSEQ, and it is one of the very good way to enter into that arena. Simple examples for the Tata, they are doing their work in the niche area. Simple, like some of the big mighty brands like Tata, they have their own meal facility and their canteen. So to avail all the canteen with concern to the related parameter, it must have the niche area. So from that concern, niche area is very much for the Tata. There are niche area, or simple for not only just Tata. There are a number of brands which are acts as a niche area, like McDonald's. So these are executive HSEQ needed for the same. Next slide. Sales and marketing executive, yeah, a candidate of the food domain itself act into the marketing executive, or if he's further postgraduated in the MBA, then definitely he's there in the marketing executive. Techno commercial sale, nowadays this is the major post where people must move on, because as a food candidate, we have the knowledge of the food commodity. We know what is the basic criteria, what is the basic structure of the food commodity. In simple terms, we could say the technical parameters of the food commodity, but we are lacking in commercial appliances of the technical parameters. So we must move on and sell it commercially. From that perspective, techno-commercial sales is one of the way. Ingredient marketing, yeah, particularly ingredient are nothing but our vitamins, minerals, or flavors, and there are a lot of opportunity for the ingredient marketing. And the best example is Satish Borkade sir, he's doing great in terms of the ingredient marketing. Exporting, yeah, for the export purpose or for the export documentation, also a food candidate could be there. Agri inputs, friends, I must say here that as a food candidate, we are just focused away from the agriculture sector, or rather than agriculture, from the input sector, agriculture input sector. But it is the definite sector, like different types of things which are already needed in every year basis, maybe the seeds, fertilizer, pesticide, and these are the input one. So definitely there are positions like sales executive to the area sales manager, and we must move on into that sector. Next slide. So the initial phases, what are the needed, like contacts? You must move on to the contacts. We are in a way to always have the contacts with the people. Industrial updates, mergers and acquisition. We must know what is going on with the food industry. List out top industry in every domain. If we're talking about the confectionery, then we must have 3 names. Maybe it could be the Ferrero, Barry, but we know that. Okay, do your best. Yeah, definitely. Every time or at any situation, we have to do the best. Case study, yes. We have to analyze the different successful case study with the food entrepreneurs. Sectoral upliftment, yeah, every year there are sectoral upliftment with concern to the scenario, and we must know the same. expert speaker, or I must say not frequently, but occasionally we must heard to different types of expert speaker in plant training. As a point of view, I must say that you have to take care about the final year candidate for the in-plant training. Domain knowledge, yes, definitely we must have the domain knowledge for the industry where we are looking for. Communication and personality. Yeah, personality does not judge by the your communication skill, but rather than that, it could be judged by the how overall impact you actually placed on the opponent. That is the thing. Sincerity. Yeah. Rather than that, the most important point for the industry is your regularity and sincerity. And do not judge others by package and positions. Yes, friend, that is the most important thing, because we are judging other people with consider their package, but rather than that, judge the people by their sincerity. Next slide. Now, what are the different types of essentiality for a job? Make yourself as a brand. Yes, definitely. Because if you do the thing with 100%, then do it with a 200%. Then only you could be act as a brand. Be confident enough. Yes, definitely. You could be confident enough. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, fine. Okay. Yes, we must have the be confident at every time, and we must have in a correlation with our seniors. Who is there at which position? We must move on. We must contact themselves, so that it is a way to create a group. References and basics. Yes, if we create the if we take the references, then we have to actually coordinate with them, because it is a basic thing. Sincerity and mannerism. Yeah, because these are the actual requisite for the individual. And rather than that, are you a accountable person for the industry, for the any type of your reference? That is most important. Rapport with your boss. Every friends here, it is actually rather than the formality, it is the necessity that you must maintain the rapport with your boss. Time punctuality. Yeah, we every time must say a punctual person could be go ahead and ahead. And tactics. Yeah, we must have certain tactics every time, so that we could move on in every situation in the life. And apart from this, we must have the patience, because friends, results could not be made in 1 or 2 days. It requires time. So from that perspective, you must require the patience, and the way you actually talk to others is very much needed, because words are the most important thing. They are either make it or break it. So definitely do it from. Next slide. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think that is the last slide, I think.
Yes, sir. That is the last slide.
Okay, fine.
Thank you so much, sir. The presentation was very thorough and the explanation was quite perfect. Very simple to understand. And let us move to the Q&A session.
Yeah, definitely.
So the first question for you, sir, is what are the emerging technologies in the food processing sector?
Okay, with concept to emerging technologies, I must say that if a person with certain type of ingredient knowledge must be move on, and certain emerging technologies like now, one thing is very important, that if we have the knowledge of particular thing, then it could be useful to the many sectors. Simple example, if you have the knowledge of drum dryer or the spray dryer, it could be useful to you in the dairy industry, in the spices, in the condiments, or because the same parameters, it could be again useful to the different types of nutraceuticals. So from that point of view, we must move on to the different types of strategies.
Yes, sir. Definitely. So, sir, with this, we come to an end to the Q&A session. The
Okay,
presentation has
fine.
been so thorough that there was only one question, which you have
Okay, no issue.
answered quite properly. I think that quenches the thirst for all the questions. So, with this, we come to an end to the Q&A session. Lastly, on behalf of Food Yari, I deem it a great privilege to propose my heartfelt thanks to our speaker, Dr. Rameshwar Jaju sir, which found the time and energy to grace this webinar with his wonderful presence. Thank you very much, sir, for your sincere efforts. Also,
Thank you again. It's my. I also express my gratitude towards the All Foodary, we could say, platform, because it is actually needed from the perspective of the student, and they are doing very much great. Because I know Harish and their team doing very great with concern to the GATE examinations for the preparation of different types of exams, and that is actually need of an hour. So definitely, thank you.
yes, sir. Also, I would like to extend my thanks to all the attendees for your patient participation, and lastly, Food Yari for organizing this webinar. Until then, next time. So, with this, we conclude our live seminar, and we'll be back with some more. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.